Okay, tonight is going to be a great night. Tonight, I will be sharing with you the story of King David bringing the Ark of the Covenant up to the city of Jerusalem and establishing it as the capital of the nation of Israel. So that is extraordinary. It's exceptional. So I want everybody to take take a seat. If you have a book of Samuel, you can see the Haftorah as I read through it. And just as a prelude here, you have that the Haftorah is giving the events that led up to the city of Jerusalem being a capital of a united monarchy. And why you're reading this Haftarah is because as a supplemental reading to the Parsha, to the Torah reading, that you have it in the Torah in Parashat Shmini, which I wanted to remember that my best friend in childhood was named Jonathan Charles Kahn, and his bar mitzvah Parsha was Shmini. Vayihi bayom hashmini. I could remember him singing it. So then what you have is you have this procession, and it starts off like this, because King David is about to bring the Ark of the Covenant. And I don't know if you've ever seen this painting from the Palazzo Pitti, but it's located in Florence. And you could see, boy, do I wish I had an assistant. But anybody that wants to help me can volunteer. So here is the Palazzo Pitti. And here you can see, boy, when I can get this down right. There's my finger. This is going the wrong way here. That's King David in the painting. And he's holding the ark. Look, there's the wings of the cherubim on the ark. And they got the smoke, the holy smoke. And they're bringing the ark. I wish I could see what's going on. Sorry, I'm making you dizzy, everybody. But this is the procession that's being described in the Haftarah. And you could see that thousands of people are engaged in bringing up the Ark of the Covenant. Next year, I'll just cut the picture in. So here, it's a long Haftarah. I'm going to try to make it exciting. If I need to roll forward, I'll roll forward. But I think it's a great, great story. So here we go. Vayosef o David et kol bachur b'Yisrael shloshim aleph. I'm not going to do everything in Hebrew, but just to give it a flavor. So here it says that King David gathered up all the men in Israel, 30,000 of the men attended this procession. And he arose and he went, and David and all the people with him from the Baalei in Yehudah. So from these people that were in the state, the tribe of Judea, to bring up from the Ark of God, which was called by the name of Hashem Sevakot, dwelling upon the Keruvim. So there was this ark, there was the ark, and then above the ark were these angelic beings, cherubim, little baby beings with big wings on top of them. And that was the name of God, the ruler of the army of the heavens. And they placed the ark of God on this new cart, and they're pulling it through out of the house of this man named Avi Nadav. My father, Avi Nadav, made a promise, made a nedava. A lot of times if somebody was barren, the wife, the family couldn't have children, they would make a covenant with God that you could see. The Sheva, Shua, Mr. Shlomo Musayov taught me that you have Eli Sheva, Yehosheva, that you have these names of people. And this is why you have these names of people where Nadav, that the parents said, please, God, if you can give me a child, I will be so grateful and thankful for it. So that's kind of interesting. So let's continue. And they take it, and also Uzzah and Achio, these two other people were part of this procession. And what happens is that they pull out of the house on this cart, and then you have this accident that happens. But before that, let's set the scene up. There was dancing and music and horns and drums and lyres and tambourines and cymbals. This was great. They were having a blast, literally, on their horned instruments. And then they come to this threshing place, the Goren of Nachon, right? They had Rabbi Goren, but the Goren is from the word Goren, and Uzzah reached for the ark and grabbed it as it was tipping over. Okay, so you think he's protecting the holy ark from hitting the ground, and watch what happens. God got angry, which this is not easy for me to understand, and he got lit. It says, kindled at Uzzah, and God smote him due to the error. He made a mistake. So there was logic, thinking fast, and then there was spiritual faith. That was thinking slowly. And he should have known that God wouldn't let it fall to the ground. Oh, well. He dies on the spot. Well, that freaks King David out, and he shuts down the procession because they were singing and dancing. Hodula Hashem ki tov, right out of Tehillim, right out of Psalms. I think it's chapter 104 that they were singing this the whole way. And that they named this place where this happened Peretz Uzzah. Well, Uzzah is the person that died. And it is very, very just puzzling is the word. So David feared God. He was like, I'm not going to move that thing if somebody makes a mistake and they die. So everybody, if you're trying to look in the text, it's in the book of Samuel 2, chapter 6, and now we're up to verse 9. And he said, I'm not moving this thing. And he sat there and he waited there. And then he thought, he contemplated that. He said to himself, you know something? I'm going to make a difference. And I'm going to then take the procession back on the road up to Jerusalem. And we're going to take 6 steps carefully. And if we don't get blown up, I will do a sacrifice to thank God for the 6 steps. So they continue the procession, and they're carrying up the Aron. Now it's being carried by hand, and they proceed without a hitch to the hitch, with music and dancing and free food. No wonder they had 30,000 people there. Oh my God. So David was prancing with all his might before God. He was dancing, like he was at a Grateful Dead concert or a Fish concert, or I don't know what they have going on today, but not in a modest, restrained, reserved, kingly fashion. He let it go. He let it loose. Well, everybody watched him doing this, and they were blowing the trumpets and sounding the shofar. And guess what? His wife, Michal, who was King Shaul, the first king of Israel's daughter, she was embarrassed. That's not how you act. You got to act accordingly. And it said that she looked down upon him. Now, it could have been that she was on the second floor of the house, literally looking down, or as far as respect goes, she looked down on him. So David then completes the procession, coming to the city now at a place called Adonai Tzevaot. Hashem is the general of the armies of the heavens. And he distributes all the people around, all the multitudes, men and women, and he gave each one bread, a roll, for each one to have, or a little pan cake, a cake from a pan. One, he did a sweet cake. All the people went home. Now, David returned home, but Michal, who was Shaul's daughter, came out to greet him, and she says to him, Ma nichbad hayom melech Yisrael? How dignified is the king of Israel today, in the way he displayed himself to the maids of his servant, like a worthless person. Boy, she was not happy with him. And David said to Michal, Lifnei Adonai asher bachar bi me'avicha umikol beiso. Oh, burn. I'll explain. He said, yeah, you want to know what I was doing? I was dancing in front of God, the God that chose me over your father. Ooh, where's the Makura Chrome, as my mother would say? And his entire house, the house of Shaul, was out, and David HaMelech was in. And God appointed me the leader of his people of Yisrael. And I danced before God. Don't cross David. And I would abase myself further and be more lowly in my eyes. And those maids about whom you spoke, with them I will find them honor. That I demonstrated about happiness and singing and having emunah and faith and saying, God, I love you. I love my life. I love everything. And yes, I may have some bad days, but big picture, King David said, of course you got to celebrate. You got to let go. You got to live life. And Michal and the daughter of Shaul, did not have a child until the day she died. So is it a mefarshim that she gave birth and died at childbirth, or she didn't want to go near him? We're not sure. Now the Haftarah continues into the next chapter, and he gave King David respite. And now the prophet Nathan, King David had his, personal prophet, and he says, I dwell in a house of cedar. This is David HaMelech saying, oh, I'm in the palace of the king. But the Ark of the Covenant dwells inside like a little tent, curtains around it. This is something that needs to be done something about. So Nathan said to the king, whatever is in your heart, go do, for Hashem is with you. Well, you know what King David wanted to do. He wanted to build the temple himself. However, let's just say that God did not grant him his wish, but he said, your son, Shlomo, Solomon, 34 years from now will. Remember, King David was 70 when he passed away, 30 when he became king. So he lived 40 years, and 34 of these years that King David was waiting, but he passed away right before it happened, for the temple to be built. Now, it continues. This is what you should say to my servant, to David. And this is Hashem. I took you from the pasture, min hanaveh, from behind the sheep, to be a leader to my people of Israel. So when we met King David was with his family, and I think he had 6 other brothers, 7 in total was him. And he was the youngest. And they come to find the next king, God send them, go over to Yishai, Jesse's house. And, they're looking, this one is, the wise one and the older one and the best looking one and the smartest one. Not this little runt. Turns out that's who was going to be picked that this is what you should say to my servant to David, that this is Hashem, and I am taking you from being a shepherd, that he would herd the sheep, and he is going to be the leader of Israel. And I was with you, and you have walked in the ways of God. And this is what is going to happen, that you are going to be established as the king of Israel. And God promised that I will never abandon you, and I will always be with you as long as you keep my Torah, as long as you keep all the mitzvot and all the commandments. So this is the storyline with this wonderful ending about establishment of Malchut Beit David, that there is a Davidic dynasty, and every king descended from David from then until we believe that the Mashiach is Ben David. So this is an extraordinary story, and this has got a lot to it, because you have the music of Hodu LaHashem Ki Tov as the march that they sang to bring up the Aron, the ark, and then you have this beautiful painting in the Palazzo Pitti, where it's in Florence, and you could see King David. I'll try it again, but I'll hold it a little further back, is that you could see King David over here bringing the Ark of the Covenant to the city of Jerusalem. Amazing. Look at that. It's a mural on a wall in Florence, in Italy, called Palazzo Pitti. So I thank everybody for listening, and feel free to share this with other people. This is this week's Haftorah for Parashat Shmini. It's the prophetic supplemental reading. I loved it. It was great to spend some time with you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You have my phone number, and love to talk Torah with you. I thank everyone who helped me with setting up these broadcasts. I'm going to sign off now. Be well, everybody.